Welcome to the journey to discover the lobster fishing profession, a job that is both arduous and interesting in the vast ocean. From rustic wooden boats to modern fishing vessels, each scene below will bring you closer to the life of fishermen. Let's watch the video to feel more clearly the hardship, but also the pride of the sea profession, and discover the fascinating journey of hunting lobsters offshore. After many hours at sea, the ship finally reached the familiar location where the shrimp traps had been dropped many days ago. The sea's surface today was quite calm, creating favorable conditions for the fishermen to get to work. Under the deep water, who knows how much spoils the traps have harvested? Let's wait and see what awaits them when they pull the first cages onto the ship. The first cages were pulled up, and the wait was worth it. Inside were full of healthy, thrashing lobsters. The workers quickly got to work sorting and selecting the qualified ones to put in storage. Each operation had to be done very carefully, because lobsters can easily get injured or have their claws broken if handled improperly. Just like that, each batch of cages continued to be pulled up like precious gifts from the ocean after many days of hard work. Before our eyes is a heavy, bright red cage with dozens of lobsters just pulled up from the deep sea. The shiny, fresh shells of the lobsters a sign of a lucky and successful catch. The workers quickly get to work sorting and selecting those of the right size and quality to put into the storage compartment. Under the drizzling rain and the undulating waves, the work is still urgent and professional, reflecting the tenacious spirit of people who have spent their lives attached to the sea. Another cage was brought up to the deck, and once again, the result was a group of fresh lobsters struggling to swim. The worker carefully picked each lobster by hand, quickly checking its weight and size before placing it in the storage tank. On a simple wooden boat, without a modern engine or sophisticated equipment, three men with familiar conical hats and raincoats began a new journey out to sea. With white sails filled with wind, they gently glided across the sea surface where many storms and challenges still awaited ahead. Regardless of weather conditions or hardships, these fishermen still stick to the sea day and night, hoping to bring back precious lobsters from the ocean. A simple scene, but full of determination, clearly showing the resilient spirit of the children of the sea. No machinery, no modern equipment, all rely on the calloused hands and extensive experience of the fishermen. Each shrimp trap is pulled up from the deep seabed, slowly and carefully, because just a small mistake can cause the precious shrimp to slip back into the ocean. The wind is still blowing hard, the waves are still crashing, but they still calmly coordinate rhythmically. Some hold the rope, some pull, some prepare to catch the cage. That is the power of manual labor, both hard, real, and full of emotion. Dozens of lobster traps lined up neatly, quietly waiting to be pulled up from the deep blue water. Three fishermen, three pairs of hands without rest, each step rhythmically, coordinating well to bring each cage onto the deck. The job seems simple, but in the midst of strong winds and waves, each time the cage is pulled up is a test of strength and will. Each cage lifted is also a time of hope that inside there will be big, healthy lobsters, worthy of the effort of the whole long trip. The next cages were gradually pulled up, each heavy steel frame rising from the blue water, but contrary to expectations, inside there were only a few small shrimps, not as many as on previous trips. The fishermen's faces remained calm because they understood that this is the seafaring profession. There are days when they catch big, and there are days when they return empty-handed. However, just having shrimp, no matter how little or how much, is the motivation for them to continue to persevere at sea, putting their faith in the next cage releases. In the middle of the vast sea and sky, the fisherman's small boat stopped at a familiar coordinate where the shrimp traps had been dropped the day before. No rush, no noise, everything happened in high concentration. One hand holding the rope, the other holding the cage. The first traps were being pulled up from the blue water. The waves were still gently lapping against the boat's side. The sun was starting to rise, reflecting sparklingly on the water's surface. Today's fishing trip officially began, carrying the hope of a day full of spoils from the deep sea. The newly pulled up cages, still soaked in salty seawater, now lie neatly on the boat floor. Inside, the lobsters with their shiny shells are still struggling, proving the strong life from the ocean floor. The fishermen quickly open the cage doors, skillfully removing each lobster, being careful not to break the antennae or claws, preserving the value of each one. This is the most anticipated moment, when the effort of the whole journey out to sea is rewarded with a real and emotional result. At a depth of tens of meters below the ocean floor, shrimp traps lie quietly waiting like diligent gatekeepers in the middle of the blue sea. On the deck of the boat, the rope gradually tightens with each pull of the fisherman's hands without the need for machinery. Just with pure human strength, they are gradually bringing the spoils up from the water. Each cage is a hope, and each pull is a patient process. It is not just a job, but a lasting bond between people and the ocean, where every drop of sweat is a meaning of survival and love for the job. And here it is, the reward for all the hard work in the open sea. The bright red lobsters, their shells glistening in the sunlight, are lying neatly in the trap that has just been pulled up. They are struggling, healthy, signaling a hopeful catch. Each lobster is the result of meticulousness, from choosing the trap location, timing, to each laborious pull. This scene is not only beautiful, but also a vivid testament to the attachment and perseverance of coastal people to their traditional profession. Although there were not many shrimps today, for them, as long as they returned safely, and still had shrimps in the hole, they were satisfied. The genuine smiles on those sunburned faces were the clearest proof of their love for the profession and their enduring attachment to the vast ocean. Before the sun had even risen, darkness still covered the sea. The fishermen were already at their familiar fishing grounds. The chilly morning air mixed with the sound of the waves created a peaceful yet hard-working scene. They started the day by collecting the cages, the traps that had been set the night before, now holding the hope of the whole trip. The ship's lights illuminated each cage that was pulled up, and even though it was still foggy, one could still see the familiar movements, agile, decisive, and experienced. In the midst of the clear blue sky and sea, the fisherman patiently holds on to the rope, gradually bringing the cage from the bottom to the surface. The sunlight clearly illuminates the deep blue water where the shrimp traps are waiting to be harvested. Although the work is repetitive every day, for them, each time they pull the cage brings with it excitement, not knowing what the sea will give them today. The gloves are wet with seawater, the body leans forward, all create a familiar, simple, but determined image of a worker in the middle of the ocean. Another journey at sea has come to an end. Empty cages, tired hands, and relieved smiles on the faces of the fishermen. That is the result of a whole day of clinging to the waves and wind in the middle of the ocean. Although there are days when they catch a lot, and days when they don't, for them, each trip is a part of life, attached, persistent, and full of pride. Thank you for joining us on our journey following the lobster fishermen. If you find the video meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to continue following the true stories from the sea. See you again on the next trips.